Good morning, Vinny. So what chance, given that we know the opposition within Theresa May's own party since that confidence vote, what chance has Theresa May got now of getting any deal through Parliament?
Good morning. Well, she really has very little chance of getting her deal through now. The Prime Minister returned last night from Brussels. She didn't give a press conference, which is a very rare event for a British Prime Minister not to do at the end of that kind of meeting. And I think that shows that this is just not what she wanted to hear. Now, the EU has emphatically said throughout this week, despite all the drama going on here, that we're not opening up the negotiations again, because if we do open them up, it's not just what you want that will be discussed. We'll be talking Gibraltar, we'll be talking fisheries, we'll be talking everything again, and we don't want to do that. We've gone through the past couple of years of negotiations, and the time is now ticking away. So for Theresa May, what we think she was trying to get was a codicil, a legal text giving out more detail on that backstop arrangement, trying to time limit it so that she could have come back and argued that we won't be stuck in the backstop indefinitely. Because what she's been trying to say to MPs, as Shona was saying there, is, look, it doesn't necessarily mean we're going to enter the backstop arrangement if we get a deal done in the transition period after March next year, and the 18 months allowed for that. But that is simply falling on deaf ears. So the Prime Minister once again comes back here. We know that she's safe from her own party for another year, but now the question is, can she get that vote through, and then is she safe from Parliament? Next week, Parliament is sitting for 4 days, but yesterday Andrea Leadsom, the leader in the House of Commons, said the vote will not be then. So the Prime Minister is running out the clock until the Christmas holidays. She then has 2 weeks in order to try to make more calls to European allies, to try to press the flesh more with her own MPs. And I think what she'll be hoping for is her public campaign going on endless radio, endless TV stations, talking directly to the public about what she's done and sounding the warnings. She's hoping her MPs will go home for Christmas, get an earful from worried constituents, and then come back in the new year and vote her deal through before the 21st of January. Because if she doesn't manage to get it through then, well then all bets are off. Because I think the opposition parties, who at the moment, the Labour Party, are dragging their feet on this, but all of the others want a no confidence vote in Parliament. And if that no confidence vote is held, well then in 2019 the year could start with Theresa May's government falling entirely.
To Poland now, where as the COP24 conference enters its last day, concerns that a common rulebook to tackle global warming will not be found have intensified. The 2-week-long meeting was at times fraught and the warnings stark. Stefan de Vries has been at the conference all week and sent us this report.
On the very last day of the COP24 climate conference in Poland, there are still many obstacles to be taken. On Wednesday, the United Nations Secretary-General warned the world.
There can be no doubt that this is a moment of truth. To waste this opportunity in Katowice would compromise our last best chance to stop runaway climate change. It would not only be immoral, it would be suicidal.
Delegates and observers are cautiously optimistic.
Maybe by tomorrow things will fall into place, but right now it's a bit complicated.
So hopefully maybe it ends well. Yeah.
The last days before the end of a summit, you always hear people say that the negotiations are going very slowly and things are very complicated and difficult. And that is here in Katowice the same as always. So if you ask me now, I tell you that it's very difficult, complicated, etc. But still, I'm optimistic that on Saturday morning there will be an agreement on the so-called rule book.
After almost 2 weeks of intense exchanges here in the corridors of the conference center in Katowice, hopes to reach an ambitious agreement have vanished. The 194 participating countries are still quarreling over credits, goals and commas. The negotiations are expected to last well into the night and maybe even till Saturday morning. And in the meantime, the clock to save the planet is ticking.
Well, tomorrow preparations begin to dismantle the Genoa bridge that collapsed in August, killing 43 people. But although the Morandi Bridge will eventually be rebuilt, 4 months on, for people living in its shadow, rebuilding their lives is proving difficult. Well, Georgia Alandi reports.
Only from above is it possible to see the scale of what has happened to the Morandi Bridge. 43 people died when a 200-meter-long section of the bridge collapsed, and a dozen vehicles plunged more than 50 meters. 4 months on, the remaining sections are still standing, surrounded by an eerie silence. Each time Iris Bonacci, a 55-year-old teacher, goes back to Via Porro, she promises it will be the last one. It is the place where she invested her life savings. Before being told, she immediately had to leave.
My house is over there. It's the grey building next to the red one, below the bridge.
This is the video her husband filmed 3 days after the collapse, showing how close the bridge was to her house.
I feel angry, I feel pain. I'm really sad if I think how much I love this house. The fact that it's still there but it will be demolished, it's something that psychologically I cannot accept.
The red zone is an at-risk area that goes from the western to the eastern side of the bridge. Around 300 families who used to live inside that area below the bridge had to leave their homes. Genoa Mayor Marco Bucci, who's also the reconstruction commissioner, has announced he wants to start demolition works as early as the next days. He wants to deliver on that promise he made and have a new bridge in place by the end of 2019. Investigators, though, who have been gathering evidence here to establish what caused the collapse, have now said they need more time.
The man in charge of the day-to-day management of Genoa's municipality told us both the planned demolition and reconstruction are a priority now.
I hope we can start building the new bridge even before March. Our need is to speed up the reconstruction.
3 visits, a total of 2 hours, is all Iris and the other displaced families have been given to retrieve belongings and try to rebuild their lives.
I took some brochures to remind me of my place of origins, Calabria. I brought with me some strange objects. We all did. The psychologist explained it's a way to hang on to our lives. When you see it written on paper, black on white, first visit, second visit, and then the last one, the third visit, that's when you realise a part of your life is over.
But Iris tells me one memory she cannot leave behind this Christmas is of the 43 people who lost their lives.